Welcome, welcome. I'm going to put on a happy face today, but I'll be honest, I'm not very happy. But the show must go on because it's important, the things that we talk about and the reasons why we talk about them. And so, yeah, here we are showing up, doing the things.
Doing the things,
And
talking
if my
about the
eyes leak, it's part of the experience. Just let it go. Just let it go. So, hello. Just a fair warning. Oh, okay, word.
Hmm.
Natalie, do you want to take over for a minute?
Sure. Well, welcome to Soul Wanderings. I am definitely not as good at this, but it's Wednesday, wandering, and I'm Natalie, and this is AJ.
I'm
Lovely
AJ. I'm just breathing and getting my act together.
Sometimes always life is happening, and life is always happening.
Yes,
And
life is always happening. So, hi, welcome. This is Soul Wanderings, and you can visit soulwanderings.com to learn more about myself and about Natalie. We're actually pretty cool. I'm extra sensitive. I feel all the things, and so sometimes you get this version of me because that's just the way it goes. And every week we have the opportunity to talk about important topics in life, in spirituality, in being a human, in healing, all of those beautiful things that we get to experience. And if you have a show topic that you would like us to talk about, make sure you email us at connect@soulwanderings.com. And during the day, we hang out at Vibes, Mind, Body, Spirit. That's where we assist humans through grief, trauma, um, spiritual counseling, energy, all kinds of good stuff. So check out vibesnow.com, which is VIBEZ.com. And here we are. Tonight, we're going to talk about generational trauma. The timing. It's always right on time. I can't hear you.
that's helpful if I unmute or mute. Undo the mute thing. We call it, is it generational healing? Oh, yeah, generational healing.
Did I say trauma?
Yes.
I'm in a trauma
Freudian.
state right now.
Oh.
Generational healing because of trauma. So we've been chatting the last couple of weeks. Um, we've been chatting the last couple of weeks about trauma and reparenting. And now we're talking about generational healing. And generational healing in the step of childhood trauma and reparenting is probably the most important of them all because we have the opportunity to stop whatever it is right here and now. Like we have the power and the ability to do that. But before we get too much into that, generational healing. Whew. So it's a thing, and it's showing up in the world right now and today, and in everyone's life on some level of another, and you may not even realize it. So we are going to talk about what that is, what that looks like, what that feels like, what that means, and how to navigate your way through the healing.
Mm.
Mm.
There's so much.
There is so much, right? There is so much.
Yes.
So where do you want to begin? First of all, let's understand what generational healing is. Like the generational, well, we'll say generational trauma because that's what it is, and we'll end up with the healing part, right? Because that's what the main focus is. But what are you healing? You're healing the trauma, the intergenerational and transgenerational trauma. So it's some kind of an impactful event that takes place in some kind of timeline, whether with you, your parents, their parents, and so on. It gets passed down from one generation to the next. And uh, it usually shows up when there's been like war or abuse or some kind of significant personal loss or emotional scars that just ripple through these family systems. And these patterns can be something as little as like having fear to major trauma, debilitating trauma, and they just become deeply ingrained into not just, like who we are individually, but also how we navigate our lives and our families and carry that on from generation to generation. What do you feel about generational trauma?
So the ancestral things, the things that have happened to our ancestors, of course, it's already written, already happened, get carried through the DNA
Mm,
because when something's traumatically happen, it will affect us um, down at the DNA level. And then
mhm,
that gets encoded in the DNA. I can't even begin to really describe how and why in the detail, other than I just know, like I've seen enough in the work that I've done in my own personal life to know that it gets in us through our DNA. So it's not really preventable. I want to put it that way. It's part of the way that we're crafted as
yeah,
humans. And
yeah,
in the form, we are left with the possibility to unwind and heal forward and backwards. And when we do that, what we're doing is healing ourselves. And then the forwards and backwards just works out.
mm,
Um, and we can't, so it's not really about, there's a lot of aspects that go into the healing part that we'll get into, like you said. Um, but it isn't always about which trauma created the family pattern. Um, Trusting that when there's a family pattern, it's a family pattern. And we didn't, it's none of that is generally conscious or on purpose per se. So it's woven into the fabric of a family, but it definitely can be unwoven and can be healed. So it's the beginning of the things that I feel about generational trauma and generational healing in my own personal journey over the last couple of years, where I've really just been slugging through the swamp of
mhm,
generational things beyond what I was already doing before. And
mhm.
every family has its own personality, and since we're a blend of two families, we get that. Every individual that's born is a blend of two bloodlines that comes in, and bloodlines those family trees. So it's a lot that gets woven into the fabric of us.
Right.
And that, I don't say that to be overwhelming, just to lay out the scope of it, is saying whatever's presented in your life that provides resistance or slowing you down is part of the evidence that says, hey, there's healing there to be done.
Right. Right. So I'm trauma informed. I've taken a couple of courses and I don't know what certifications. I don't really keep track of that, but um, I used to believe that it did get carried down in our DNA, and there is something to that, right? But what I have come to understand through my studies is that it is a biological thing. It's like through epigenetics, and it does affect our DNA, but it isn't what I understood. It isn't like in the DNA. It doesn't alter the DNA though.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Hmm.
Like the genetic, the changes, the changes don't alter the DNA itself, but they definitely have. I always look at everything as energy, as you know, because
Hmm.
I see energy, I feel energy, and there's there's this level that I see in people's bodies when I work with them on for trauma that you like it you can see it woven in. So I know that there's something to that. And I know that it's been tested. I mean, not just spiritually or psychologically, but also scientifically. Like they have ways to measure that kind of stuff, which is wild, right? Because it makes the generational trauma like a multi-dimensional issue, not
Yes.
just a generational or a physical or an emotional thing. It's like dimensional. And that's what's crazy to me, because when I'm looking into the layers of the trauma that people are carrying with them, it's like, wow, there's layers and layers and layers. And it's not just grandma, then grandpa, and like it's energy that's just
Mhm.
carried through you. And if you think about like not just the parents and grandparents you've known, but theirs and then theirs and then theirs. We're talking thousands of lifetimes at that point, and you're getting some little spot of it. I try to wrap my head around like how do you heal that? That feels very overwhelming. Like how would I heal? And also like why do I have to be the one to heal it? Like there's people who will go into that like they are having these experience that they carry in their body, like maybe it's stress, right? Because we're not born to be stressed. We learn stress by watching our parents stress and how they navigate through their lives. So we're carrying this stress that's not even ours to begin with when we're young, just like, oh, what do I do with this? And then it piles on and piles on. So if we just look at stress, because everyone gets stressed, right? Everyone feels
Mhm.
stressed. And how do you stop stress with you right here and now? Like, how does that stop? Like something as little as stress, but then you also think about like if you look at people who have survived like wars or like even like the Holocaust or something major, significant impact on their souls, and then that trauma has been passed down, and you're like, why am I the one having to clean it up? Well, that's the cool thing. Why not? Why not? Why wouldn't you want to clean that up so you didn't pass it on? And even if you're not like physically passing it on to a child, the effect that you have around or for other people also, right? Because we're all interconnected. So when you do your work, you're also doing work for other people. And whether they choose to receive it, that's a whole other topic. But it's up to you. It's up to you. Like, how do you want to feel in your body? What do you want to continue to live out? And if you do have littles or even adult children, you can do this work at any point in your life. Like, do you want them to carry this A, B, or C? Do you want them to carry the burden or the health issues or whatever that looks like? Because you're like, I don't want to deal with it. Go ahead. I sometimes
that,
just go on and on and on.
that was really good because she's like, what?
Yeah, there's just so many patterns, right? Because you think like in my family, there's addiction, there's abuse, there's neglect, there's unhealthy relationships, there's these deep rooted feelings of like not being good enough, inadequacy, fear, um, you name it. There
Hmm.
plus when you have the trauma on top of it, then all of those other emotions build on top of that, and it creates this ripple effect that shapes us, and then that's how we react and interact with the world around us.
Right.
Yeah, how our unresolved traumas are, shaping us emotionally, behavioral wise. I mean, when you look at generational healing, there's just so many avenues and so many directions and so many things that can take place that it can feel very overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be. It
No.
absolutely doesn't have to be. I know
So
you're itching to say something.
I'm listening, and so you know how I like to do like these practical examples. So one of the best times to plant a tree is 80 years ago or 100 years ago for them to mature and provide shade for the future generations. That is one of the reasons why. And what you said, we're multidimensional beings, and it's woven into our multidimensional energy fields. Then it it doesn't matter whether you're at a stage where you're going to have children to pass it down with or already had it. It's the fact that the more correct you can become in the form that you're in these bodies that we're in, the impact you have on the world in your incarnation. It's in the form where these things can be healed. They can't The healing doesn't happen in the energy field. There is something about us being in the form where we're able to heal the things. So if it's come into your awareness, you've been picked. You've been picked. It comes on your fractal. You've been picked there to do the work. And I would dare say that you actually have everything that you need to be able to do the work. And it doesn't, a lot of times the overwhelm comes from the mind. What do I have to do? Where do I need to go? What is it? And it's like just the mind can't figure out how to do the healing anyway.
It's not supposed to.
No, it's not supposed to. It's part of what drives a lot of the trauma things. It's because our minds are just buggers, they so what at what that we're on this front that the future generations come from where we are, and we have this opportunity to do something for even our future self. So if you're listening to this, it can even be that in 5 years your future self will need you have done something today to provide a foundation for even our own personal future self in the future. Do the work even in our own personal lifetime will
Mhm.
improve by allowing the healing to happen, allowing the possibility for it to even be real, that healing can happen and the sunshine can come in. So those are one of the things that I say. If we're planting the tree now, the harvest will benefit future generations. A lot of times we don't really see it in our lifetime, but we're doing it for that future generation. But it does improve our own lives when we do the healing work.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yes.
And then you really do start to see, because the impact happens between humans, whether it's coming from correctness or incorrectness. The impact happens. We exchange energy between our aura fields all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Parasympathetic nervous system
Mm-hmm.
is exchanging things all the time when you're in a space with someone or many people. So you make an impact one way or the other. We
Yeah.
can choose.
Yeah. I feel like one of the most important things when it comes to this topic is like the importance of self-awareness, right? Because it's so easy to say, well, I'm like this because
My
they like,
mom.
yeah, like you always say, if it's not one thing, it's your mother. Like I'm like this because that's how I was raised. I'm like this because whatever reason that you're going to give an excuse for your bad behavior. Well, that's that's just one not okay, right? But that's besides the point. It's important to have the awareness. It's a critical step in identifying how the generational trauma has shaped you and your emotions and your behaviors, and and for me mostly it's been my relationships, like just relationships in my whole life, like navigating my way on what's healthy and what's not, right? And I think that just having the self-awareness, like you're feeling, you know, I'll have clients come in and a lot of them are feeling a lot of guilt and shame. And
Mm.
you just even ask them, but why? Why are you feeling that? I don't know. I just feel it. Okay, well let's check in. Is this yours? Or are you carrying this for somebody else? And it's just like pointing out the awareness in your body can help you clear a lot of it immediately, because recognizing, one, this isn't yours to carry. You decided somewhere along your life to pick this up and own it, but it's not yours. So a lot of times it could be as simple as just setting it down.
Mhm.
Like, this isn't mine to carry, this isn't mine to heal, and you can just set it down. But then you've got the deeper stuff, like, right, like the trauma. Usually, more times than not, the parents that are abusive are because they were raised with abuse, right? And then the parents who are alcoholics were raised by alcoholics or some kind of an addiction. Like,
Mhm.
there is a reason for these things. And that's where you get to have the self awareness to have an understanding like, oh, okay, yeah, I don't like this. I don't want this for my child. I'm going to decide to actively work on this and clear it so that I'm not handing this down to my children and they don't hand it down to their children. I think the self awareness is super important, not just one to identify what's yours and what's not, but two, also to understand the importance and the responsibility, the beautiful responsibility you get to have. Like, what an honor, right? To clear that up. And I just know when I am working with people and they are working through this generational trauma and healing it, like, their ancestors are like totally in the crowds cheering them on. You can see it, you can feel it. You just know they're like, thank you, thank you, thank you. It's beautiful work, it's meaningful work. But how do you do it?
So,
You're the
um,
counselor.
right? Resiliency, and resilience is actually a skill. This while you were talking, it reminded me in my grief group the other day, there was a woman that had just recently gone on a cruise, and her family has just been disrupted with some recent family trauma and a recent death, and so it's really shook the family up. But on this cruise, which she said she had a great time, she marveled that there was this big family that was just full of love and loved each other, and just she marveled at that. So there's evidence out there that there are some families that actually have healthy things that go on in them,
Mm.
and that's possible. So if we think about building skills, and skills are practice, 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 practice. You got to do something over and over again to get really good at a skill. So if we look at that and say, oh, okay, so I need to build my resilience, my own personal resilience, then we say, okay, so it's a skill building thing, which means active practice and a participatory thing. And so we can break it down into little small steps. So we're not trying to overhaul your life. This is an evolution, not a revolution. Evolutionary things take hold and then carry on. And that's what we're really looking for. So it can
Mhm.
be as simple as pulling yourself out of, if you catch this thought pattern that you have, you're going to pull yourself and say, we're not thinking that way. We're going to practice thinking the opposite. And so you're going to do that's what we're doing, is to catch yourself. Is it dissatisfying for you? Are you upset? Are you angry? Are you bitter about some things? Is that what's happening? And then it's like, okay, we're going to just pull myself back in, and I'm going to just adjust a little tiny tick, just a little bit of an adjustment. It's like turning the volume differently or changing the channel just a little bit. It's little incremental things like that where the healing takes hold. And so it's with the self awareness where you say, and it comes also with owning your personal pattern. Way
Mhm.
back when I was a young woman, counselor said, well, exactly how long in your life are you going to blame your mother? Because I was
Wow.
hardcore in blaming my mom for where I was in my life, and it shook me.
Mm.
Did I know how to change it right then? No, but it shook me. It shook me and caught my attention. I was like, oh, oh, yes. So, now that I'm in my 20s, I'm responsible for my
Yeah,
life. I can only use that excuse up until now. How old was I
imagine
when?
that.
And it's like, oh, my mother isn't in my body, moving my body around, making my personal decisions, doing the actions that I'm taking in my life.
Yeah. Yeah. See, and I think about generation stuff. We have a lot of generational healing to do for sure
Yeah.
in my family, no doubt. Um, I haven't volunteered to do it all because I don't feel like it's my responsibility alone, but like what in my line, right? In my line with my parents. I don't ever I'm sure maybe when I was younger, maybe I may have said something like that, but I don't ever feel like I've like literally blamed my parents. I've always had this understanding that my parents were young when they had me and they knew the best they knew how in that moment. And I know that their parents weren't that great, right? And so I feel like I've excused a lot of their behavior when I was younger on more of my grandparents than my parents.
Mm,
So that's been interesting because it's just like an awareness that yeah, they still were adults. They still had the ability to make a different choice and they opted not to, right?
mm,
It's just
yeah.
like me, like when I was younger, I made choices that I wouldn't opt into now with the understanding that I have now and the healing that I've done now. Um, but that's the beautiful thing about it. It's an evolution, if you will.
Right. Yeah.
There's some questions I want to pull up on the screen. What are some good things to ask yourself to evaluate if something is yours to heal, if it's not your place? And how can we better tell the difference and discern?
Um, wow, there's so many layers to that. Um, when when you when you develop a relationship with your body actually will have a sense about it that said, "Oh yeah, this is really mine," or sometimes it can be as simple as just feeling like an expansiveness or a contraction, generally down in the gut, that you could get this stuff that says, "Is this mine?" And just trusting that. I mean, it's not. A lot of us go up to the head. Well, maybe it could be that or this, and then it's like less words and a sense about it, um, and um, it's also, are you taking particular actions that are saying, like, if you're taking particular actions, I don't know what a good example of this would be, but it would be something that's like, your behavior would be something for you to work on if it's your specific behavior. And guilt is one of those things. So if you're saying, what are you guilty for? And I will often
Mhm,
say, did you do something that was criminal? Did you do something that was really horrible? No? Okay, then perhaps the guilt. This show says that the potential is there, that you're carrying intergenerational guilt. And we can't even know.
mhm,
Most of the things that our family did that might be on a realm of a horrible or difficult or bad sort of spectrum wasn't even written down.
mhm.
And so the secrets are kept in a family, kept sort of tucked away. So we're naive in a lot of ways of what could be the drive or cause of an intergenerational issue in
Mhm.
our families. So it's not a mind game this way. It's just a matter of saying, well, what if it's possible I just allow it to go, write it on a piece of paper, throw it in a piece in a fire? Like,
Yeah,
what if I just tried that? What if I experiment with it to said, oh, this thing is like the feeling guilty, just throw it away for 10 days in a row, see what happens.
yeah. I mean, I think it is an experimental thing, right? Because we are
Hmm.
also individually different, and the way something may work for me may not work for you. Like I
Yeah.
know you're a talk person. You talk things out. You do talk therapy in a lot of ways.
Hmm.
Where like Soul Portal just mentioned reminds me of muscle testing. That's what I do. I muscle test. I'm like, I don't want to talk about it. That's just re-traumatizing. But some people really feel the need to talk about things, and I support that and I can hold space for that. But for me, I'm like, why do I want to relive it? I want to let it go. I know what happened. I don't need to put it out into the world energetically. Let's just clear that up.
Right.
And I really appreciate that we have options and opportunities to choose what is best for us, what we are most comfortable with.
Mhm.
Because it's not about forcing an uncomfortable situation. It's already uncomfortable if it's causing you to feel uncomfortable, right? And so, why do you want to make it more so? So, I love that we have opportunities that are just options, lots of options. Yeah.
And where we're doing a skill and we're that there's learning involved
Hmm.
with skill, excuse me, with skill building, there's learning involved. And it's things like listening to the show or doing some research or some investigation and some active practice where discovery really happens. We are experiential beings. We understand most what we experience. So you have to, there are many times you have to, you go walking down the other side. These little things, we're such creature of habits and patterns, us
Hmm.
humans. We really get into our groove. And
Yes.
even sometimes people can be in the habit of going in all kinds of different directions. Like, do you go the same way home all the time? These are really practical examples, but it is on the practical level because we are in the form where we're talking about the healing actually taking place.
Mm,
Healing isn't by going to an energy healer. Energy healers are great facilitators of someone's healing work.
mhm,
But the healing happens, it's really each person living in your skin 24/7, knowing all the things that you're going through. There's a lot, all of that time in your own body means that you're the one that really truly is responsible for making those adjustments that are going to change the pattern of your personal life.
mhm.
You have to be willing to do something different.
Right. Yeah. And, the self-awareness that I talk about, I really do feel like that's obviously one of the biggest steps in the healing. Um, I've said this, I don't know how many times on the show, that I don't like going into the closet and pulling out a box and digging in it. But as things come up, I like to look at them and question why I feel this way, why I'm reacting this way, why I'm avoiding this way, or whatever is showing up for me. So it can allow me to dig deeper. And I found a lot of times when I'm getting clear with myself in order of like what to do next, some of the simple things that we've talked about many times on the show is like going back to the basics and doing things, different practices like journaling, maybe even just documenting along the way things that are coming up for you or beliefs that you have around certain experiences, and noticing the pattern that is being built in your life that maybe you weren't aware of previously, that it's just um, something that you see on paper, right? When you start taking notations of what's going on, journaling can be very powerful. It's not for everyone though. And so but it does offer clarity and perspective. But also there's mindfulness techniques like meditation where you can, some people really struggle with meditation, but just like being present in the moment and creating a very safe mental space where you can observe the emotions that you're feeling without judgment,
Right.
just observing them. And that actually is a really great thing to do when you're fostering self awareness, because you can piece together how the generational trauma has impacted your life and where the healing is needed. So that's really cool too. But I mean, there's different ways to go about it. But if it's deep generational stuff, definitely seek out assistance, right? Because as we've said, I'm repeating myself, I feel like, but none of us have to do this alone. It's not the kind of work you need to do alone, nor should you have to. Like there are tons of people who can help. I like a second party or a third party looking in. Like if I have this experience, I know I go to Natalie a lot. She has this big, beautiful brain, lots of experience. Natalie, I'm feeling this way. I'm not sure where it's coming from. I mean, just before the show, I had a complete mental, emotional breakdown because I really don't love saying this out loud, but I am super sensitive and I can feel things on such deep levels.
Hmm.
And, uh, sometimes I'm not clear in those moments because being emotional, you don't have the clarity
Right.
needed.
Right.
And so it's really neat to have somebody come be in your space and not judge you, but observe what you're experiencing, listen to what you're saying, and then offer a viewpoint that perhaps you didn't see before, or offer an opportunity for the healing that you didn't consider before.
Well, these things can't be solved with the it is said you can't solve a problem with the brains that develop the problem in the first place. And so it's helpful to have wise people around you, or people that have the different perspectives that you were saying, to say, did you feel like, or did you consider this other thing, or they give you a different perspective. That's what um, an outside help source really does. In addition to that, there is something about putting skin in the game. So whether it's an energy worker, if it's a coach, the coaching industry like I do, or a therapist, it's putting your butt in a seat, putting it on the hot seat, and committing yourself
Mhm,
to do something that's out of your norm to heal yourself. And if
mhm,
you've done years of therapy, maybe it's stopping that pattern and practicing the things that you learned a little bit. Because there's the opposite. There can be people that do therapy for all their life. And so there's times where it's very individual, it's very personal what this is going. So having a show like this, of course, we're talking in more broad strokes or generalizations, but each person can put something to work in their own life,
mhm.
and make the shifts that are available to them, because each person has a different set of pattern that they're working with.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, I think. I'm really
Yes.
loving the feedback from you guys tonight in the chat on YouTube. Thank you so much. If you guys are hanging out in YouTube or on Facebook, make sure you give a thumbs up, like, or subscribe if you haven't, because we are rebuilding our channel after leaving the radio station. And so we're at the very beginning process again, starting over. But yeah, we just appreciate any of the support. Thank you. We have Soul Portal. You guys, words are hard tonight. Blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
Soul Portal made a comment um, about talking to his mom about the emotional clarity process. He's familiar with the human design system. So, yeah, if you are emotional in your human design, woo, Natalie can tell you about that. It is a superpower, and also clarity, gaining clarity over time is super important. Super important.
So there's this patience, patience, patience. And um, that can be an aspect that if you can gain some familiarity about your human design, you can learn what your inner authority is. Um, just being more correct in your own personal form and living by your design is
Mhm.
the generational healing.
Yes.
That's what I'm talking about, because you will start making decisions in a different way. You'll be more correct in your form,
Mhm.
and that is healing for you personally in your life. It makes it really simple. It actually simplifies the whole thing. I mean, it's not, you know, easy just
Mhm.
because it's
No.
simple. But
Yeah.
when you learn that you have a strategy for life, you have an aura that functions in a particular way, your type is a generator, manifesting generator, manifestor, whatever the type is, you start living according to that. It really makes a difference. I
Yeah.
have I'm personally doing it for 8 years, but working with clients and teaching it, I've watched people become more comfortable in their skin by being themselves.
Mhm.
not the generalized homogenized world. We seriously live in a world, we're so open to conditioning as humans. We're obviously made that way, programmable. For whatever reason, I don't know, it doesn't matter. It's the form that we're in. And so when you start being able to have your own inner guidance system,
Mhm.
it's 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 a practice that says, okay, well, I'm just going to practice this. And it is understanding whether you're emotionally defined or you're not. Regardless of whether you're emotionally defined or not emotionally defined, always being patient and waiting for some clarity in that emotional storminess is not the easiest practice to have. But that can often go back to what you would wish that your parents or grandparents had had. If they could
Mhm.
have just left the room when they were angry, then perhaps trauma would not have happened the way
Right.
that it did. If they just would have learned to just walk it off, if they would have learned to breathe, it could have prevented some of the stuff.
Yeah.
And
Well, go ahead.
just one more note, and then so if you find yourself wanting to say that person should change these things, and you say it should be easy for them to change, do your own changing and show them how easy it is
Mhm.
to change.
Right. Yeah. I appreciate everything that you just said. I wanted to go into that direction about just, I talked about the self-awareness, but it is really knowing who you are and just having that light shed onto like the negative thought patterns and the unhealthy habits that you have over time. That process of introspection and that discovery of yourself will really allow you to just naturally break free from these cycles
Mhm.
and establish healthier ways to interact with yourself, interact with others. And it also builds the emotional and resilience, right?
Mhm.
And builds like this transformation inside of you. And I just think that's such a beautiful thing.
We call it going to the emotional gym. You're building
Yes,
your emotional muscle.
yes. Another thing, and this is not an easy thing to do by any means, but um one and I should say one another. This is not something I've really been able to do with my family. There's a lot of trauma in my family, but and many families will have this, but I think it's really important to like break the silence in the families, right? There's so many families that have this, we're not going to talk about it. We're sweeping this under the rug. There's this hush hush. There's this guilt. There's this shame. There's a desire to protect. Whatever it is, right? They're creating these safe places, but the real safe place is by opening up these dialogues, allowing the families, you and the family members, to like talk about their stories and talk about their experiences and um by speaking openly and from a place again of non-judgment, just to have an understanding that there's these emotional wounds carried all through our family, through these generations. There's these trauma signatures in our DNA or whatever that looks like, because I feel like the transparency, it won't only just strengthen the family bonds, but it will also help reduce that secrecy and the stigma behind these cycles of trauma that are just like collectively piling up in the corners of the houses, because that is the thing, right? They
Yes.
just don't get talked about. And when I say it's not your responsibility alone to heal all these generations, like get your family on board. Let's like make it a team effort. I know if I sat down with my family, shouldn't say I know. I'm not sure what that would look like, but
Mm.
there have been moments where we have tried and it hasn't been so great. And that's okay too, right? Because
Mhm.
everyone goes off into their own little directions and their own little ways, and they feel into it, and they get to a place where they either are going to look at it and work through it, or they're going to continue the patterns. That's not your responsibility.
No, but it could planting some seeds or cracking it open a little bit.
Mm,
Another strategy maybe to um, I've done this with my own mom, is I've asked her about her childhood. I've just started a conversation in a space where she is not, my mom's just a worker and usually pretty involved. And so when she started to slow down a little bit and I had the opportunity while I was visiting her just to talk to her and ask her about her childhood, she would tell stories. And there's just little things that get revealed in stories that,
Mhm.
I discovered that my mom's childhood was much different than my childhood. And that was a conscious choice on her part to provide us with a different childhood than she had. So my mom started the generational healing in a way, by some choices that she had that said, I won't do that. I'm not going to parent like them. And then in my ignorance, I thought my mom was not great. And then I come to realize, wow, okay, my mom was much improved on the version, and kudos for that type of a thing. Um, so talking, if whatever people that are older than you, there's the opportunity to tell stories, and sometimes you just need to gear someone to a different story, like what else happened, what else, and takes this taking advantage of an opportunity to ask. Not
Mhm.
not not everyone's great at those, but for those that feel like that would be a an interesting experiment, then do it. Like get together and ask to hear some stories.
Yeah.
Besides, not our people that are older than us will only live so long. And it's the opportunity to pick the brains of people that have eaten more bowls of rice than you.
Yes. Yes. I love that. That is so good. Another big thing for me and my clients is just the power of forgiveness, right?
Mm-hmm.
Forgiveness is the one of the biggest healers that you can possibly give yourself, and
Others.
it really is about you, not the other person. And I just think about all of the times where I have felt anger and resentment and all of these lower vibrational energies, realizing like how much that was hurting me, holding on to their caca, right? And I didn't want to do it anymore, but I knew in order for me to let it go, I had to really work with the unresolved anger. And in order to do that, I had to learn how to forgive. And I feel like by choosing forgiveness, you're able to break these cycles just by forgiving, just
Mm-hmm.
by letting go and opening new doors for a deeper connection. Because you have to understand when these traumas occurred, most of them occurred in your childhood. We talked about this. Like most of these generational things were something that was given to you before you were 18 years old and went out into the world on your own.
Right.
And you're different now than you were then. And although there are definitely some things that affect me in my adulthood that I realize are a generational thing that I've been able to pinpoint and look at. That's for everybody. But at any given moment, again, it goes to what are you going to choose to carry with you and what are you going to choose to let go of? And just the simple choice, giving yourself the choice, lets a lot of that go, heals a lot of that energy, but also forgiveness. Forgiveness, we all know the power of forgiveness, right? I mean, I don't need to explain this one. It's pretty it's pretty empowering, not just for you, but also if you can get your family on board to work through these things together, you heal together. And then you like create this new foundation, this new legacy built on emotional strength and understanding for all of these future generations. You're able to break these curses, they call them, and have a healthier dynamic moving forward. It's really such a beautiful thing.
When you actively participate in a forgiveness process and you feel the lightness, the enlightened, like your form is literally feels lighter, and then you talk about that in your family members, and you will, because inevitably some family members will be like, I cannot
Yeah.
let that go. I want you
Yeah.
to notice the difference. Which one would you pay money for? The lighter feeling that you have, or holding on so tight to your density.
Mhm.
That's observing others in where they are in their process is also helpful, especially when you're around family, because you can see the through the awareness the family dynamic um, be present in our family members,
Mhm.
and just like, oh yeah, there's those things. So when I don't live around my family, and so when I visit my family, I was like, oh, okay, that, that's why I do that thing
That
that
makes sense. Yeah.
it's like, oh. And one of the things that I feel like in my family that's out there for healing is money. We have a long-standing money aspect. And I think that we could serve some healing in the money category for whatever reason. I don't know, but I just know it's there. Um, so it can look in all kinds of ways. It doesn't always mean a, a trauma doesn't mean necessarily physical violence or other things like that, or abuse. It doesn't always mean that. Sometimes it can be monetary aspects, the way the whole family deals with money. Poverty is a thread that runs through a lot of families, where
Mm.
families just do not know how to acquire wealth, where the opposite is true in some families. You're like, how do families carry wealth generation to generation? And where the lack of wealth can be an intergenerational aspect of a family. So
Mhm.
that it's a wide range of things that this can be.
Mhm. A very wide range. And it doesn't even have to be complicated.
No.
I mean, I feel like most times the generational stuff is something as little as, um, it could be as little as like you need to eat everything on your plate. Money doesn't
Mm,
grow on trees.
mm-hmm.
Clean up after yourself, but to the point of like OCD, like someone's putting their stuff on you, right? It could be little to something really big like
Yeah.
abuse or, carrying around just that energy generationally, like from wars, from major historical events.
Yeah, I feel like some of ours stemmed from we were when my family lines emigrated and probably left most of their belongings and came with very little. So I think there's some things like that, ancestral roots that happen.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, this is interesting um topic. I feel on this quite often when I just observe my parents and the things that they say and do and what they believe. And I check in with myself like, do I believe that? Do I think that? Just like an internal
Mhm.
dialogue with myself. Like how does that feel for me? And I realize like what I've taken with me that they've handed down and what I've forged for myself. It's really neat to observe that as an adult. And then what did I hand off to my son? What did I give to him that they gave to me? Right? Good, bad, or indifferent, all of it, all of the above. It's just interesting to observe it all. I like that.
Or I don't I don't know why this thought just popped up, but our lives aren't necessarily graded. And maybe that's just something I want to query for you to pull. So my understanding is that we come here for the experience that's fed to the universe likes novelty, and we come here to have an experience,
Mhm.
and all the world's a play. So there's a lot of drama that's involved, and drama includes villains and heroes and archetypes, and all of this is an aspect of the human nature. There's a lot of archetypes that might be a fun topic to do sometimes, is the archetypes. That would be quite anyway,
Well,
off
we're going
track.
to be learning more about that in a couple
Yeah.
of weeks, you and
Yeah.
I. We'll be taking a seminar that will be included in.
Right. So with those types of things, my my question is there we're not going to get a grade for our life.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like you're going to get graded on your work and whether you're pass or fail in the healing aspect of your personal life. Is
Mm-hmm.
there anything that you tap into that's around what's this experience, our humanness? What are we doing in this form?
What are we doing here in this
Mhm.
form right now?
Yeah.
We're in school. We're definitely in school. Like everything we do, when you say we're not getting a grade, we're just having these lessons, things like that, that is true in my opinion. We don't get graded. I don't believe when we wake up, which a lot of you will refer to as when we die, we get judged by anything or anyone other than ourselves, other than us. We literally are here to have the human experience. What does that look like? Whatever you choose it to be. Are we given cards that we probably, like, in this human body would be like, why did we choose that? Yes. But then we get to choose what we do with that hand that we are dealt. And how are you going to play this game? Because, in my opinion, this is just one big video game. It really is. And so you talk about the human experience and what do I think? I think that I feel that's a really loaded question for me today because sometimes I can see the purpose and sometimes I cannot. And today is one of those days where I can't authentically answer that question without being raw about it.
Hmm. Oh, yeah.
What do you feel?
Um, I I feel like it goes back to I really and a core part of my own personal what keeps me going in life is that life is not devoid of purpose. It isn't ever devoid of purpose. And in any given moment, it's not possible to measure the purpose of a whole entire life. That's not the way it works. Like you said, when we wake up and when we die, then there's not this judging sort of thing. We we carry so to remember that even if we get into these times where we feel empty and we feel like there's no purpose to it all, wait, just wait. Life always comes. Life is always unfolding, 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 unfolding. There's another aspect that when we have these conversations is just sort of an interesting aside. When we have a conversation about generational healing, there is a um, naturally implied aspect that said that there's even healing to be done,
Mhm,
um, and to say, and sometimes forgiveness can come so easily to say it's all everything is exactly as it ought to be in this moment. And everything is always working out for me. And I'm guided and I'm supported. And any given moment of my life, sometimes I just simply need to breathe and allow the inspiration to flow through me and to let that be an aspect that you start to incorporate in your life. Is to say the world is always showing up for me. Sometimes I didn't get the memo, but it's always showing up for me.
yeah.
And pausing and breathing. It's a powerful thing to allow. So I will say this in my grief, and there's learning processing grief is another aspect where a lot of healing can happen, and it can be generational because we inherit our our perspective on grieving from our family line anyway. So we're often not trained in grieving because we didn't get to see people really truly going through a grief process because people hide
Mhm,
it and they try to be strong. Um, so the wallow is the same word as allow, but just with the W.
mhm.
So sometimes we'll wallow, and that's a natural aspect. And then sometimes we just need to drop the W and just allow.
Beautiful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So next week, let's pick a lighter topic.
This was
Let's do something fun. It's been 3 weeks of heavy, heavy topics. If you guys have an idea or suggestion on a lighter topic, send it to us at connect@soulwanderings.com. We'd love to hear from you. We do like talking about the heavy topics, but we got to come up for some air.
Yeah.
We have to come up for some air.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think we're going to wrap for tonight. I think we've said all we get to say, and the time is up. Before we do, I just want everyone to hold space for our country right now, because there is a major battle going on in the world, and specifically in our country, of light and dark. And the time for you to pick a side is now. And the light needs you. And I hope you hold each other in light tonight and the days moving forward. And remember your purpose, because it matters. And remember who you are, because it matters. And not only the remembering of who you are mattering, it matters vibrationally and energetically, and it makes the light brighter.
Mm-hmm.
So come home to yourselves and share your love and light with each other. And that's all I have to say. Have a good night, everyone. We'll see you all next week.
Take care.
Good night.